Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parents Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Entitled Dad tries to take my $3,000 bike. After that, jerk manager destroyed my childhood game store, so I got him fired. After that, almost got the law called on me for a stolen receipt. Now Karen assured me if we can get 1,000 likes on this video, she won't be calling the laws on anybody for an entire week. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. And by the way, huge shout out to our newest official members of the Re-Army, Esmirtai 1 and Tyson Edelston. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Join as an official channel member today and I'll give you a special shout out in our next video. Entitled Dad tries to take my $3,000 bike. This just happened a few hours ago, and I'm still fuming after this happened. As the title says, someone tried to steal my bike. Important things to know. I live in the center of Milan, Italy. My school is about 45 minutes from where I live, and I need to take the bus to go and come back from school with a welcome 20 minutes ride to my house from the stop. I'm an avid cyclist, and because of that, my grandmother manages to scrape some money to give me this bike. I don't let anyone ride it because it's the last thing I have remembering her. On to the story. Cast. We've got me. We've got my best friend. We've got Entitled Dad and Entitled Kid. The day goes just like normal. I wake up, do my morning routine, and start cycling to the bus stop where I meet up with my closest friend, important, and get on the bus. As always, I attend school. Today was different. When I got to school, I saw one of the mothers that brings her kid to the bus stop. This is Entitled Kid. We never talked together since we never got along in the previous years, making us basically hate each other. This was strange, as his mother, not entitled, had a very important job in my father's company and always had to be at work on time to have a meeting with my dad. As school finishes, I get to the bus and sit with my friend. As usual, Entitled Kid gets on the bus and sits as far away as possible from us. As we get to the stop, I see Entitled Dad waiting for Entitled Kid. Strange, as he usually goes home alone on foot, but I really didn't think about it until I was walking towards my bike to unlock it. Entitled Dad and Entitled Kid approach me and my friend. The following conversation goes like this. This was all in Italian, so I have to translate some words from my city's dialect that are commonly used. Me and friend are talking about our passion of cycling and start to unlock our bikes. My lock is very old, and sometimes I have to put quite a lot of force to open it. Entitled Dad, high-pitched scream. What are you doing? Me, I turn around. What? Why are you trying to steal this bike? Me, it's my bike. Like heck it's not. Stop, or I'll call the police. Me, I lose my temper quite fast. What do you want? This is my bike, and friend can prove it. Friend, it's his bike, and Entitled Kid perfectly knows it's his. Entitled Kid, no it's not. It's my bike, you little jerk. I get up and show him the key to the lock. Entitled Dad tries to snatch it, but I step back and then push him back. Entitled Dad lets a scream as if I had hurt someone. Help! He assaulted me. He's trying to steal my son's bike. An important thing is that I'm obsessed with my weight and with my strength and often exercise at the gym to keep in shape. Because of that, I'm pumped as heck, what everyone says about me. This is my breaking point, and I start to yell, both in Italian and my dialect, and shout blasphemies, very common in young people. Friend, who has had anger issues for his whole life, thankfully doesn't lunge at him like he'd do normally, but chases him. Entitled Dad gets back up and starts to high grunt heavily and decides it's a good idea to kick me in the abdomen. Since I already lost my temper, I socked him and he started crying like a little baby. Entitled Kid also tried to do something, but as he was trying to get me, my friend made him trip. I managed to open my lockout in my back and started to ride away with my friend. Thing is that Entitled Dad was one of the wealthiest men I knew, and he could have bought the bike for Entitled Kid with no problem, but instead tried to steal it from me. Unfortunately, since his mother works at my father's company, he was informed pretty straight away and called me, and I explained what happened on the phone and he sided with me. I called the mother and said sorry for how I reacted. She said that I overreacted, but I was in my right and said to tell her if it ever happened again. Have you ever had someone try to take something that belongs to you? Let me know in the comments. Next we've got, jerk manager destroyed my childhood game store, so I got him fired. I judge card games from local to world championships. For several games, I was head judge at the world championships. The town I grew up in had a game store. It was ran by a husband and wife, and eventually their kids joined in on the fun. It was a lot of fun. Every night there would be no tables open, and for bigger tournaments, they would rent out vacant storefronts in the shopping center to fit everyone that would come. Eventually, they moved the store to a bigger store, and it would just keep growing. Some that grew up in the area and started playing at the store eventually had kids of their own, and they played in the store too. It became a tradition. This is the place that you took your kids to their first RPG game, or where you buy them their first booster packs. The only Friday nights that this store would be empty was if there was a big football game at the high school. The reason the store was so popular was because of the people. They were never flashy, and they treated everyone as if they were the best player in the world. They'd give away free snacks, sodas, booster packs for every little occasion, and sometimes just because. They were more than patient with players, helping them build decks and helping people get better at the games. They also knew and were able to teach every game they sold in the store. I can walk in any day, and there would be several RPG groups and rows after rows of people playing all sorts of games. Didn't matter if I bought anything or not. I can stay from open to close and not spend a dime, and they would still treat me like I dropped $1 million. It was Nerdvana. It was also the store where I judged my first event after I got my initial certification. And the husband had me as a judge for almost every event, and he would compensate me half a box of booster packs for the smaller events, up to 2 boxes for bigger ones. For one really big release weekend, he gave me 6 boxes of booster packs and paid me. His wife was equally amazing and loved her nerds, as she affectionately calls us, more than he did. She would bake cakes for birthdays. Every day for the week leading up to Christmas, there would be a tin of cookies always stocked and baked the night before. If people got in a jam and needed a last-minute sitter, they could leave the kids at the store, and she would warn the parents she'll watch them, but she'll also teach them collectible card games. I think this is also why the store made so much money. There was a rumor the store actually belonged to her. Life happened, and eventually I ended up living in a city about 3 hours away, and a few years ago, I heard the wife had passed, and the husband couldn't bear being in the store because everything reminded him of her, so someone else was running the store now. I planned on visiting the store, but being 3 hours away, I just couldn't make a casual trip there as a round trip would be 6 hours. Around the middle of last year, the store announced they were going to host a major qualifying tournament. This generated a lot of buzz. People from all over the region were making plans to travel to it. I thought this would be a great time to visit the store, so I made plans to go too. About 2 weeks before the event, I got an email from the publisher asking me to judge the event. I thought this was odd, as for store-level events, the store fields the judges and the publisher doesn't get involved at all. Also, while there are a number of us judges, we're not so numerous that we don't know each other. So I knew there was enough judges in the store's area that should be able to handle the event. I wrote back saying I was hoping to be able to play, but shouldn't there be judges in that area that would be able to do this? They wrote back with there should be, but the store owner said he couldn't get anyone, even with the list we sent him. Red flag. They ended the email with, "You should talk to the other judges from the area and see if you can get more of the story." I wrote back with, "Give me a few days to think about it." I immediately started contacting the judges in the area. They all told me the same story. The store was sold to a guy, and he was great. It was the manager that was the problem. He was a judge as well, but he thinks he knows better than everyone else. The manager would override obviously correct ruling because he was buddy with the person the judge ruled against. Apparently, this also happened at a major regional tournament. Now, one of the reasons I judge instead of play is judges are pretty well compensated, now anyways. Not just with booster boxes in our pay, but we also get some pretty sweet exclusive promos and swag. The jerk manager was hoarding judges' promos for himself. The judges found out about this after they went to a major event, and another judge was talking about a sweet swag he got. The area judges put 2 and 2 together and realized what was going on. After this happened, Judges that lived in the area all agreed that they wouldn't judge under him ever again. This wasn't the worst of it. He would harass players, saying they can't bring any outside food or drinks, tell them they have to buy products if they want to play in the store. He would harass the RPG players, telling them they have no life and they're just wasting valuable time. They could be playing better games. Needless to say, people tried to avoid him. But as the owner would sometimes run the store himself, no one can be sure when the manager from heck would be around. I was livid. This was the store I grew up in. This was the store I learned to play and mastered all my favorite games. And this jerk was killing the store. I started to formulate a plan. I wrote to the publisher and told them I'll do it. Also, what was the judge's swag for this event? They wrote back, really grateful as they would have had to have pulled the event if I didn't agree to it, and told me everything I would get for judging. They even told me they'll throw something in special for me helping them out. I wrote back asking for a specific item I knew that the jerk manager would definitely want and I could use to trap him. The publisher wrote back saying yes, they would include that in the tournament kit as well. The day of the event, I woke up at the ungodly hour of 5 a.m., got ready and left the house at 7 a.m. and made the 3-hour drive to my home store. I got there and there was already a line wrapping around the store. I said hi to people I knew from the store and those I met at larger events. It was like a mini homecoming. I walked in and the new owner, the manager, and 2 other judges were there and went over the day. The manager started saying that he's a level mid-tier judge and that he was the highest in the area right now, so he would be the head judge for the event, and what he says is final. I told him that I was a higher tier judge. On top of that, I had several advanced role qualifications. He said I was BSing him until I showed him my certification. He said he's still head judge because he was the manager of the store, and people in the store respect his authority. I had to stifle a laugh. Then I told him before I start, I would like my judge's swag. Now, normally, I get this at the end of the event because I don't want to carry it around all day. But given this guy's records, I wanted to give this guy as little chance as possible to steal what was owed to me. He started hemming and hawing and said he hasn't pulled the kit yet. I told him pull it, open it, and give me my swag or I will be walking away and I'd tell the publisher and this tournament will be invalidated. The owner tried to reason with me, but I was firm. I hated doing this to the owner. He hasn't done anything wrong. From what I heard, he was trying to continue the traditions and practices that the original owners had established. But I knew I needed to be a jerk to save the store's community from the manager. The manager finally came out and gave me my swag. I looked it over and I knew this wasn't everything that was promised to me. And I said as much. Then I pulled the email from the publisher that listed everything I was supposed to receive, including the special swag. The manager said he couldn't find it all, and the owner begged me to wait until the end of the event so he could make it right. I stood firm and demanded my stuff. I listed everything, and this time I also listed the special item I requested from the publisher. The manager went pale. The owner looked at the manager and said, "You said you got that when you judged that big event a few months ago." I pulled up the email where I requested the item and where the publisher said it would be included and showed it to the owner. The owner exploded. He demanded to see the entire packing list for the kit, and sure enough, my promised item was in there. Then I told the owner everything the other area judges told me, and the owner got redder and redder. Finally, I told the owner and the manager that unless I get the items I was promised by the publisher, I would call the police and report the theft, then walk out and make sure everyone outside knew what happened. The owner demanded the manager give me what was owed to me. He walked back and brought out everything that was listed in the email, plus the special item that was promised to me. The owner then fired the manager and apologized to me profusely for what had just happened and asked me to please judge. I agreed, started the tournament, and apparently it was the best ran tournament the store had since the change of ownership. No one walked away complaining, all the rulings were fair, and it even ended early. When I got home, I sent an email to the publisher with a tournament report as well as an explanation as to what happened. I also sent a long email apologizing to the owner for my crappy behavior. The owner wrote back saying he understood why I did it, and he was actually grateful as I was able to help him see the truth. The fallout. The jerk manager was stripped of his judge certification. Also, the guys he tried to help cheat were given bans from the game. The owner hired one of the area judges to manage the store, and it's slowly going back to what it was before the reign of the jerk manager. In the grand scheme of things, this wasn't some huge injustice that was righted, but this store is like family to me, and you don't mess with family. Are there any stores that you love as much as OP loved the game shop? Leave me a comment letting me know, and drop a re while you're at it. Next we've got, almost got the law called on me for a stolen receipt. This happened yesterday. I work for a retailer/department store, and on Sunday we're usually not busy. It's also January, so we're really not busy aside from the droves of people coming in to return their Christmas gifts and make a fuss that they can't have cash back if they didn't pay with cash. The usual. I get to work in the shoe department today, so I head on over and am immediately met with an older lady, probably in her later 60s. She's there with her partner, who is another lady of similar age, and they both look like they shop in the men's department for their clothes and shoes. No big deal, so I get to assisting. Main lady, who we'll call Smallfoot for the sake of her visit, wanted to return some shoes she had bought because they were too big. No problem. I return the shoes, and since she had paid with our in-store credit card, I just let her know it will be put back on the card and she'll be refunded. It's only after we're done that she makes a fuss and says, "Well, where's my cash?" Turns out she didn't want the credit back because she wanted to get rid of our card. This isn't that huge of a deal, seeing as I can see exactly how much money went on her card, and then when she's finished shopping, we can charge that exact amount, so her balance on the card stays at 0. And then her partner, who we'll call partner, said she'll just pay the difference since it's Smallfoot's birthday, and she was going to get her something else instead anyway. Alright, well, I hand Smallfoot her receipt for the return, which I stapled to her old receipt, as we'll need that later to do what I just entailed. I spend the next 30 minutes or so bringing the shoes back and forth for Smallfoot to try on, and it's a difficult process since we don't carry very many of the small men's sizes in store. We usually have to order them for the customer. During this process, Smallfoot is urging me to get down and check her toe, saying how I'm the shoe salesman here and I need to show that I know my stuff. First of all, it's a department store, in which, yes, I am familiar with the brands and how to do most register things, but lady, I work here part-time from a seasonal gig I grabbed a couple years ago, only on the weekend, and the sort of people who are staffed in these areas are by no means a purebred shoe salesman shining a pair of legit leather shoes in their store window up in Atlanta or something. Second of all, I just found this weird since this is something a kid would have done by their parents, pinching on the toes of the shoe and telling them if it's too big or not. Or a wife or husband smooshing up their spouse's shoe in a similar fashion. I wing it just to be a good sport, but like I said, I'm a cashier, and the most I can legitimately do if you have a shoe size question is to put your foot on a metal measure and show you where your big toe is so you can see what to get. Gripe over. Smooshing your toe in the shoe is not going to tell you anything. After we've picked out 2 pairs of shoes for Smallfoot, I get to ringing them up. First, I have to look up their credit card number in our system since they apparently already tossed the card somewhere and had no plans on using it again. I then go the extra mile to run it and see if they had any rewards, which would give them another $10 off. Considering they probably just got it, they didn't have any rewards for me to apply. But that's okay. All I need now is the return receipt I mentioned earlier to make sure I charge them the right amount on the card. Well, Smallfoot decides that she doesn't have the receipt and that I still had it. I do a double take around my wrap stand, looking under the few shoe boxes we had lying around and glance into some drawers and even the trash can just to make sure I didn't swipe it off onto the floor or something. When I don't find it, I'm like, "No ma'am, I don't have it. Could you have left it over there trying your shoes on perhaps?" The fact that I dared even suggest that maybe she had misplaced her receipt somewhere, which couldn't have been far, really enraged this lady. She got this really gruff and aggressive sort of way of expressing herself, and she comes around the register and tells me, "Let me dig through that trash, because y'all are no good slimy liars stealing receipts." At this point, me and my ringing maid are just speechless. I let her peer around the counter while I dig through the nasty trash can and show her there are no receipts. Smallfoot then proceeds to accuse me and my ringing maid of stealing the receipts. There was a line forming behind this, as it happened by the way, and by the time we resolved it later, they had all gone. However, while they were waiting, I could see their eyes get big as this lady just pitches a fit about how she's going to call the law on us for stealing her receipt, and yada yada. Eventually, the voice of reason, partner urges her to check her pockets one more time. Guess where the receipt was? After handing it to me so I can do my thing, Smallfoot claims, "I need to walk away. I've got to cool down." Like it was all my fault that she was up in a huff and ruining her blood pressure. I finish up the transaction just as planned with partner, and with a weak smile she claims, "So sorry y'all," and heads off to find Smallfoot, who's stalking up and down the aisles now, throwing angry looks at my ringing mate. And that was only my first customer experience of the day. Remember kids, grand receipt theft is a real problem in retail. And shoutouts to our Regenerals of the day, Kurt Miller, Joshua, and Pipolium. Become tomorrow's Regenerals by leaving as many reads as you can in the comments below. And please listen to my playlist every night when you go to sleep.